So addiction, what is it? Forget all the models, because there's lots of theories of, there's the medical model, there's the whatever model. Let's just speak in a language that we all understand. It's just hard at first to just be. What I mean is hard to be here, like in the moment, fully present. When we have these minds, so to speak, that are saying, no, go do that. No, have some of this. Have some more of that. Go chase this. You're not good enough. Make yourself good enough. Get their approval. Get their attention. Drink this drink. Have some caffeine. Go watch some porn. Go find enlightenment. We all know, even if we only know it intuitively, that freedom from seeking or addiction is possible. I mean, I know that we all know that. Because we know, we've all had those moments, maybe many of us have many moments, where it's like time stops. Like if you're enjoying nature, or a sunset, or a huge mountain, or watching kids play in the street, or when you first wake up. There's a moment where thoughts just relax. And there's a sense of natural rest, a sense of, wow, just here, aware. And there's peace there, and freedom. But then those are just moments for a lot of us. So it goes back to drink that drink, go chase that self-improvement program. Maybe enlightenment will help. Go have some cocaine. Hell, chocolate cake, have it again, and again, and again, and again. So even if we have those moments, even if we're those who practice like relaxing in the moment, intermittently we're bombarded by the words and pictures of our minds and the sensations in our bodies that tell us, you can't relax. You can't just be. There's something else, something more that you need. And I just wish that we would have like a really, really honest discussion about addiction and talk about just how broad it is. It's not just drugs and alcohol. I mean, I meet people with the Kiloby Center in Palm Springs. We meet people in the industry, the recovery industry, who think of it as a drug and alcohol issue. But really, that's just like a limited part of our population. There's also addiction to food. The circle starts getting bigger. Addiction to porn, which is huge these days. Addiction to gambling. Some are addicted to cleaning their house obsessively. Some are addicted to getting attention or approval or love from others. Some are addicted to, I mean, you name it. If it's been created as a substance, somebody somewhere is probably addicted to it. And if it's an activity that has the possibility of changing your mood, somebody somewhere is addicted to it. So that includes really all of us, all humans. And there are people who are addicted to work, to helping other people. So how do we even define addiction? How do we define it in a way that doesn't make it so exclusive, as if it's just the problem with the guy on the street who's got the heroin needle in his arm, or the lady who hides the bottle of vodka in her closet? How do we define it in a way that's more honest, so that we don't see it as a problem that they have? We see it as dis-ease of humanity, a dis-ease that most of us experience. The way that I like to define it is, in its simplest form, is doing something repetitively or compulsively in order to avoid feeling something, and in a manner that's not needed for survival. And as long as something kind of has all those components, you could call it an addiction. And I've had every single addiction that you can imagine throughout the years, including, and by the way, that includes spiritual seeking, seeking enlightenment, self-improvement, trying to manifest positive things in your life. It can include all of those things, because if you listen to how I define it, it's doing something repetitively or compulsively, which isn't that what we do when we're spiritual seeking or trying to improve ourselves or work obsessively or drink or whatever, in a way to try to avoid having to feel something, because isn't all of it about not having to feel that lump in my throat or the pain in my heart or that sense of tightness in my stomach or that anger, that fear, that sadness, that guilt, that shame, whatever it is. And then most of what we're doing in terms of substances and activities are not really in a manner that's needed for survival. You know, I heard a Buddhist teacher say once that early man probably realized that, you know, he could go out and get food, water, and shelter, and that gave him pleasure and kept him safe and warm and survived. But then somewhere along the way, there was no shut-off valve. So it's like, if I can get all of those and have pleasure, what about the wine? What about sex every day? What about sugar? What about cocaine? What about? And it's never ending. And what about enlightenment? What about if I can get their approval? So the brain like has no shut-off valve. So we're kind of all in this together, and it sounds kind of bleak. But to me, when we talk about addiction, it doesn't feel bleak. It feels like an opportunity to just have a really honest and broad discussion about how we live on Earth and what's going on. My own experience, what was going on, is like I say in the definition of addiction. The mind is putting up words and pictures that take me away from having to feel something. So recovery then, when we start talking about what recovery is, or even, to me, recovery and awakening, they're all just the same thing, they're both the same thing. It just means being present, being here, conscious, and starting to feel and welcome everything that I was running from in my addiction. So recovery is really just kind of the opposite of addiction. If addiction is chasing the next moment through thinking, the next drug, the next something, in order to avoid feeling, then recovery is resting in the here and now, being aware of those words and pictures, watching them come and go, and then sitting with these feelings quietly, without thoughts on them, until they just, either they relax, or they're just there, but they don't have any thoughts on them. They don't, no judgments on them, and they can just be there, like a feeling right here could just be here in the quietness. Not trying to change it, not trying to get rid of it, not trying to make it go away. Just resting with it. Like, to me, that is sanity. That is recovery. And what I found is that eventually all of the sensations end up going away, things come and go, and the sensations get unhooked from the words and pictures that keep telling you, chase this, chase that, and then the words and pictures just stop having such a pull to them, and eventually they can start to quiet. So all those thoughts, those words and pictures and sensations, through resting and looking, start to quiet around the wine and around the sweets, and then also around the caffeine and the drugs or whatever else, the porn. And then, of course, then the spiritual seeking can come up, or the self-improvement. I'm trying to recover now, that's the new addiction. But even that can come to rest. You can see the transparency of all those thoughts because you're resting and you're conscious of those thoughts and feelings. and you're not trying to change them anymore. And that's restful. And somehow, when I've been with experience that way, and it didn't happen overnight, but when I've been in that, with my experience that way, with just seeing words and pictures, sometimes using the inquiries on them, asking certain questions about the words and pictures and sensations, what naturally happens is that it's just like an addiction can no longer get off the ground. It's like forgetting the craving for coffee. It's like forgetting the craving for sweets. And then opening myself to the vulnerability of feeling everything that I was repressing all those years and trying to seek something in the future, whether it's drugs or alcohol, enlightenment. Finally, I get to feel everything that was repressed down here, and then that starts to move, and it's like, man, am I grateful. I can't even begin to explain. I can't even begin to put in words, and this is why I don't do videos that often. I cannot express how freeing that is. There are no words for it. A lot of times I just sit wordlessly wondering, how can you describe this to people when really it's experiential? How are there such things as spiritual teachings, in a sense, when what we have to do is see for ourselves that when we are recognizing ourselves as aware and resting in the moment, letting everything be as it is, feeling everything quietly, everything that comes up, there's just no words for that. There's no words for it. Some call it enlightenment. To me, it's just a word. It doesn't really capture it. There's no word that you're going to be able to tell me you're going to be able to say to me and say, Scott, it's this. I'm going to say, no, it's not, because it's experience. It's an experiential thing. It's not a word. It's not an idea, a model. This is not a new theory of addiction. This is learning to be with our experience in the most gentle, tender way, and where we learn to stop trying. We stop trying to change how we feel, and we simply feel. We stop trying to get somewhere, and we simply rest where we are and see the words and pictures that tell us that we need to be somewhere, and we let those be. So if you're interested in this kind of a discussion, if this appeals to you, whether you were just trying to deal with an addiction for the first time, whether you've been on a spiritual path for a long time and you now see that as an addiction, whether you've been in a 12-step program for many years and you're looking for something to complement that 12-step program, it doesn't matter, because this is our issue, all of us, as humans. But if you resonate with this, if something that you hear in this makes sense to you, that addiction is about trying to change how you feel, which is kind of a violence to yourself, and you recognize that resting and allowing and just inquiring into things very gently seems really, really sane and really, really inviting, then come join us at naturalrestforaddiction.com and get involved in a conversation. Get involved in our Facebook groups, in our natural rest groups, which are groups that meet online on Skype. There's one just about, I think, every day of the week, actually. Some meet in physical locations. Come visit me at the Kiloby Center in Palm Springs, kilobyscenter.com. Come get involved. I mean, I guess that's all that I can do. I can't describe what really has happened for me and for so many other people. I can simply invite and say, take a look with me. Come rest with me. Come explore what you've been suppressing in the way that I'm exploring it, in the way that so many people are exploring it. Because that speaks louder than any profound sayings or spiritual platitudes. The invitation is much more powerful than me telling you what it's about. I'm inviting you. Come, take a look, rest with us.